I think there are probably two important things. The first perhaps just reflects the panel we have this morning and some of the people in the audience, and that is collaboration. I think I've been watching this story probably now for more than 30 years, that at the moment there is very strong collaboration between the UK funding councils, my colleagues in Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland, not just HEFCE, who are responsible, as Steve has said, for institutional funding, the research councils and the charities, who are mainly responsible for project and programme and fellowship funding, the learned societies, and I think it's particularly good to have Martin here this morning, and also government and industry. So collaboration is key, but also key, of course, and this is really the purpose of this morning, is our distinctive system of dual support funding, and particularly the part played by quality related research funding, or QR. Again, something that is not just confined to England, but to the other funding bodies and funding councils across the UK. And for me, this does several things. It ensures the longer-term sustainability of the research base. It gives universities flexibility, and certainly when I was a Vice-Chancellor, having the flexibility in-house to pump prime new work, sometimes high-risk work, but potentially high-reward projects, was important. It means that universities can maintain research groups, good research groups, between funding rounds for specific projects or programs, and keep the momentum going. And it means often in universities that we're able to buy crucial equipment or the sort of IT support needed nowadays to develop the very kind of complex research platforms that we've all been working with. Now, Steve has given me my cue on the research excellence framework, so I suppose I better take it. But simply, I want to say that the REF is the key to sensible allocation of resources and sensible allocation of QR into the future. The aims are very simple: to drive up quality across the research base in all forms of research, to support and encourage innovative and curiosity-driven research, including new approaches, new fields, and interdisciplinary work, to reward and encourage the effective sharing, dissemination, application of research findings, and the productive interchange of research staff. I think a growing trend between universities, businesses, the public, and indeed public sector, and indeed the voluntary sector. But also to reward and encourage universities that deliver benefits to the economy, to business, to society. But these benefits always, I think, if they're to be sustained, building on research excellence. So the production and the publication of quality assessments that are comprehensible, produced by a transparent process, and we've learned how to do that through successive REEs, benchmarked against international standards, which is one of the things that gives us our standing in the world, and allows us to identify the very best research in higher education wherever this is carried out. All of this is important when added to the notion that we use QR to support the better management and sustainability of the research base into the middle distance. So I'm enormously grateful for all of you coming here this morning. Enormously grateful for the support you give in the endless arguments about QR and the relationship of all the research funders, and I look forward to your comments and questions. Thank you very much.
Well, just a few footnotes to what we've heard from the first two speakers. We're all familiar with the statistics which show the UK's cost-effective strength in research, but this research base is a complex and vulnerable ecosystem, and without protecting it, we will lose our global advantage. And I think our university is vulnerable in many ways. The Far East is striving to achieve competitive excellence. Institutions on mainland Europe are competing for graduate students by offering instruction in English. Several countries Australia, Germany, South Korea and Canada boosted their spend on science and innovation as part of a stimulus package. More importantly still, the Obama administration has given America's already world-leading community a massive boost in morale and in substance. So the allure of the US is now much stronger than in the Bush era, and our success in attracting and retaining mobile talent will be at risk unless we respond. So to retain our competitiveness, we need to raise our game at a time when, as we're aware, the funding prospects are discouraging. And that should be the context for our discussion today. Turning now to the new report. When I talk to overseas friends and colleagues, they're all bemused by our funding system, particularly by our attachment to the dual support system. But I tell them that for all our gripes, it's better than the American system, where professors need to hustle for grants to meet even basic academic needs, computing, secretarial service, supporting a graduate student, etc. So we have advantages. But if we want to retain dual support in our expanded and ever more diverse university system, then, as we know, something like the RAE or REF is a necessary evil as a discriminatory tool for distributing scarce resources that underpin research. I'm fortunate to know many of the UK's leading scientists, Nobel Prize winners and their equivalent in other fields. They're all individualists, but there's one thing they'd agree on. Their work was unpredictable, it was long-term, and it required a stable and supportive environment. But as Steve Smith emphasised, specific grant proposals to research councils are framed and judged in a way that leads to incremental progress, but not necessarily to breakthroughs. And indeed in the United States, the NSF, mindful of this, recently introduced a new category of so-called transformational research grants. So it's in our interest to support real excellence right across the board. And indeed, I think that's still affordable even in our straitened times. And this support, directed to those with the highest international standing, should come from QR and from within the ring-fenced science budget for the research councils. But of course, public funding outside the ring fence clearly must be selective and channeled according to priorities broader than the science itself. We can't confidently predict how, when, or whether a specific research project will pay off. And therefore, the socio-economic benefit that emerges should not be credited solely to the most immediately relevant projects, any more than the win at football is due solely to the team members who actually score the goals. It's hard to associate impact with a particular research project. Indeed, even the wizards of venture capital are highly fallible when they try to pick discoveries with commercial potential. So to expect a grants committee to make any worthwhile judgment, and moreover, in the case of research council, to do this before the research has even been done, seems unrealistic or worse. And it's ironic that a government that's been unwilling to pick winners in industrial policy should be advocating this upstream, where it's surely even harder to do sensibly. But it seems to me that this does not require that all universities should offer PhDs in all subjects. That's because a student aspiring to a PhD needs more than just a good supervisor. He or she needs to be in a graduate school where courses are offered over a wider range. And without this second component, a British PhD won't necessarily be regarded as having the flexibility and range that's needed for their later career, whether or not that's in academia. This hiving off of the best researchers into separate institutions is a major drag on efforts to improve the French and German universities. And it's ironic that Germany, which invented the research university, doesn't really have them anymore. And I think what we see in mainland Europe reinforces the virtues of the research university model that prevails in the United States and here, and that's why it's crucial to preserve it and why we should welcome this report. So thank you very much.
Thank you.